back to Alita's Restream. We have a great topic that I know you're going to love today. Lead yourself, lead business, and lead others. On our Restream today, we have a number of our Alita consultants. And I am Jody Whites. I am a strategic business coach working with entrepreneurs, medium, large size businesses to make their impact, to be profitable, to be successful, and to live their purpose. Next, we have Philip Topham. Hi, Philip.
Hello. How you doing? How's control out there today? You've got the
Control
master
is
control for
I
hosting.
do. I
Yeah.
like it. It feels good.
Nice.
Philip, give
Nice.
us a brief. Let's learn
All
about
right. So
you.
we got a couple of hours here. I'm Philip Topham. I love growth and innovation. I just help companies, particularly technical founders that are got a great idea. They came to market, they got the revenues, and now they're in that growth space. And they want to be in charge of their company and still be in charge instead of having the investors come in and kick them out. And so that's really what I do. I started as a network engineer, been a CTO, started my own companies and other things. And so it's really important for me. My mission is to see technical founder success stories be super common. And if you're technical, you too can be a fantastic CEO. So that's it.
Great. Sounds great. Harmony Whittington, welcome today.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for hosting, Jody. We really appreciate it. I am a professional expansion specialist. I support professionals and entrepreneurs really getting in alignment with what it is that they're on the planet to do. Like, I know that, a lot of people attach their egos to their job title, but your soul has a purpose. And if you're not feeling fulfilled and doing something that makes your soul sing, then there's a big puzzle piece missing. And I also want to support you in really being able to have beautiful relationships in your professional life so that you can turn to anyone for support to help you get a leg up in those times when, you might need a colleague or somebody in a different space to help you out. Also, when you create that success in your professional life, don't you want to turn around and have people at home to celebrate with? So I'm here to help you to also nurture those relationships at home so that when you do turn around, there's going to be people cheering you on and wanting to see you succeed and to celebrate with you when that happens.
That's great. That's really just so heartwarming to hear. Next, we have Larry Law.
Hey, Jody, thanks a lot. Welcome to our little stream today. I'd like to thank all of my fellow Alita consultants for being here, and of course, Jody for hosting. My name is Larry Law, and I am a leadership coach. And if you would like to understand the 4 leadership dimensions for your business and what it needs to be aligned, we'll explore that today. So we'll just leave it at that, and we'll move on back to Jody.
All right. Our last guest is Tom Mays. Tom, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So, as Philip helps technical founders keep their positions from investors, I do the opposite. I help investors kick them out of their positions. I raise money for companies, medium, large scale companies. Generally, minimum raise is 5 million or more. Got a few different businesses, but that's the primary focus is consulting in that space. So yeah, happy to hear to talk about leadership, how to lead yourself, discipline, as well as leading others and working on helping businesses scale through leadership. Thanks so much, Jody, for hosting.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm super interested in hearing what everyone has to say. I want to start with one of our Alita coaches whose specialty area is leading himself or leading businesses. Larry, can you give us an idea about how that happens or what it means to lead yourself to lead others effectively?
Um, I think it's really interesting that we look at leadership today, and you think of how many good leaders you know, or how many great leaders that are out there. You look at the G20, you look at senior leaders in major corporations, and I think, bar none, I think most of the people in the world would say we lack leadership. So the leadership, I guess, programs and things that have been done for the last 50 years don't seem to be working well. And the reason, in my opinion, is simply that they are externally focused in terms of, things like leadership styles and this and that and the other. And when in truth and in fact, being a good leader comes from within, and people recognize it and they congregate towards great leaders and good leaders. So if you can't lead yourself, or you don't know how, I have no idea how you're going to lead others. And, let's make a distinction here and be really clear. Hitler was not a leader. Okay. People like that are not leaders. So that's just my take on the situation. It's how do you as an individual develop yourself to become that great leader, and therefore you need to self-lead before you could lead your business or anybody else. So what does it mean to self-lead? That's what we should be exploring today. And really what it comes down to is a foundational framework that you need to have for yourself. Anyhow, I'll pass it back to you, Jody.
All right. And I'm curious about self-leading. And I want to hear more about this from you later, because it's one thing to say that, yes, I can lead myself, but I think there are certain steps you can take to get to know yourself better. So who would like to step up and tell us a little more about that, or their take on self-leading? Well, Larry, would you like to expound a little more on that?
Sure, no problem. I mean, to be able to self-lead means that you need to understand your foundation. And when I say foundation, what I mean is, who are you, what you're about? And for the most part, many people have never done that discovery whatsoever. So the first thing, and there are, basically 5 steps that you need to be able to go through. You need to be able to discover it. You need to be able to define it for today and what it needs to look like in the future for you to be able to achieve what you need to. And then more importantly, you need to define what the path looks like from where you are today to where you want to be. How do you actually do the activities on a day-to-day basis? So what do you need to do? And then finally, how do you sustain that process over time so that it becomes an evolving process over time, that it's always being done? So that's really how simple it is. But yet the problem stems from the fact of a lack of discovery.
Yeah, that is true. Discovery is really important to, again, becoming aware of how you're acting, what's important, maybe what your values are. Philip, I am going to bring you on to talk about more of this topic in depth, or anything that you'd like to share on self-leading and leading yourself.
Sure. Larry, I was going to say, Larry, you can keep Larry up here. Larry, I totally agree with Larry. This leadership piece, with me dealing with a lot of the technical founders, they start as people in the laboratory, they invent something. They might have been a scientist, they might have been an engineer, computer programmer, and they love doing that. And they end up building a business, they get revenues, and then they hit this little wall, right? And they actually didn't realize that they need to teach, lead themselves, lead a whole business. Do you see? I'm going to ask you, Larry. Do you see that happening with technical founders? They're great starting the business, but then they leave off this leadership component. Oh, you're frozen. Maybe Larry's frozen. Oh well. Since he seems to be frozen there. That's what I see. I see a lot of technical founders. They're really good, but they don't understand the culture that they're trying to build. maybe they love being in the laboratory, their heads down, building the technology all day long, but they forget to talk to customers. And that's part of that leadership. Are you out there talking to people? Are you friendly? Who do you represent? What does your company represent? How do you help the other team members, your other executives, your customers, your partners, your investors? How do you ensure that you're living the ideals that you want? Are you ethical? You have integrity, all those kinds of things. So I look at that self-leadership as truly understanding yourselves, representing it, and then helping build that team. By representing it, you attract others to that same good behaviors. It's hard when
Yeah,
you're a person of one, and that's why
sure.
you need good people around you to help hold up the mirror.
Absolutely. And I think, speaking to what you mentioned, is you've got to really have a desire to want to know yourself, to really want to grow, to understand how you lead based on, again, your values and beliefs, because that's going to come out. Harmony, what would you like to say about self-getting?
I really love what both Larry and Philip are saying so far. And I definitely find that in the professional space, particularly obviously in IT, but in the corporate space, a lot of people don't focus their attention on mental health and on relationships and really developing the core foundational uh, self that they need in order to be an effective leader. And when it's really funny because I was doing a podcast interview last week and I was talking to an amazing man who is particularly in IT and he's also a musician. So he's in the tech world and also a creative. And he was talking so much about how people that are in the professional space, they self-protect a lot and they don't want to be vulnerable. So they don't want to risk talking to somebody and having their personal stuff get out there. And yet they don't realize how vulnerable they actually are when they're unresolved. When you're a walking house of buttons because you're unresolved and you're not doing the work and you haven't resolved your trauma or your mommy daddy issues or whatever it is that you have going on, anyone can come and push your buttons and you're going to say and do something you regret. You potentially might not believe you're worth or worthy of the success that you're going to create and you're going to self-sabotage. I've met many entrepreneurs who self-sabotage because they don't have the self-worth. And so they'll manifest the amazing thing and then they'll take it and destroy it and then walk away and go, why did I just do that? Right? So I want anyone who's watching this to realize how paramount doing the work actually is, spending time actually developing the internal foundation structure that you need to feel worthy of the success, to even go out there and pitch your ideas and get anyone to believe in what it is that you're doing. Because if you don't believe in yourself, good luck on getting anyone to believe in you in the first place. And you don't want to be an emotional train wreck going in asking for investors and stuff like that either. You need to be rock solid. You need to believe in what it is that you're pitching. And then you need to have the self-love, the worthiness to believe that you're worth creating whatever it is and maintaining and keeping what it is that you create. So really, in all reality, when you do the work, when you step into working with somebody like me, developing a relationship with yourself, releasing those buttons that could be pushed, that could turn you into a volcano, and understanding emotional intelligence, energetic intelligence, how to manage relationships, you actually truly are releasing vulnerability. And you're putting yourself in a position to become a powerful leader because you love yourself and you don't end up in competition with others. And you can allow the people that you bring into your business thrive and see them do amazing things to support your business, because there isn't going to be a piece of you going, oh, well, they're better than me, so maybe I shouldn't even be doing this. And you know what I mean? That internal dialogue. So
Yeah, I
really,
totally, that
yeah, you hear what
internal
I'm saying,
dialogue.
right?
Exactly. I think that's so important because you really have to understand what's going on internally to be most effective externally. And if you're going to be your number 10th supporter instead of your number one supporter, it is not going to fly. So I'm going to bring everybody back in just a minute, but I'd like to hear from Tom Mays. Tom, what would you like to say about self-leadership or in leading yourself?
Absolutely. As the other coaches and consultants mentioned so well, it all starts with you. You're the first one that needs to grow. You're going to be the one that builds the relationships, builds the businesses, etc. So removing the limiting beliefs, being self-aware as to what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, where the areas that you need to work on are and are not. And then that flows into, once you're competent and secure with yourself, you're able to then foster an environment for other individuals so that they're able to lead themselves and work with you in a company and grow together. So it all starts with you, being aware with the work that you need to do internally so that you can start to build and progress towards the goals and dreams that you want to build and the companies that you want to aspire to build. And then bringing a group of people together that can communicate effectively and work collaboratively so that they can scale a company together. But yeah, all the other consultants have done such a great job speaking to it. So I'll hand it back to you, Jody. Thanks again so much for being here to host this call. And I'm looking forward to hearing more great information from the other consultants as we move forward through the conversation.
Great, Tom. I like that. Tom has such a collaborative spirit, and that is his goal in leading, is not essentially what, I can do, but what everybody can do synergistically as a group. Now, just bringing back the coaches, what would everybody have to say? Or feel free to jump in about how you can really sustain the leadership. I know, Larry, you had mentioned that earlier about sustaining your own, and he has gone off, so anybody else can jump in. And when he comes back, we'll get him. And, sustaining this leadership, having everything move along in a successful way, and for that person to keep growing so their leadership gets better and better.
I'd love to speak to that, Jody. I think you talk to anyone who's successful and has been running a successful business for any duration of time, they'll tell you they have someone in their back pocket that they consistently turn to when they feel like they want to blow their stack. They have a safe place to go and vent those feelings where it's confidential, and they can go back and they can actually respond in the appropriate manner, because we're human beings and we all, have emotion, and having a safe space to vent that so that you can maintain that professionalism is paramount. And as we move through life, situations are going to come up that we might not necessarily know how to handle, or we might just be clouded as a result of any kind of emotion that might show up. So having a consultant in your back pocket that you can turn to help you get through that and know how to move through really with clarity, because somebody who's looking at stuff from the outside always has more clarity than you who's in it, right? So always have a mentor, a leader, a coach, a consultant, whatever you want to call it, in your back pocket that you can turn to, that you can consistently get support from, because you're going to be winning if you have that. And the other thing that I'm going to say really quickly is spend the rest of your life developing a relationship with yourself, getting to know yourself, embracing the diverse human being that you are, and really do things that fulfill you outside of your work. Make sure you do things that bring you joy, bring you bliss, so that you can be consistently falling more and more in love with yourself and creating a better life in service of yourself. Because the happier you are, the better of a leader you are, because you're going to bring that happiness, that joy, that bliss, that positivity to your career, to your employees, and they're going to love working for you because of that. And it looks like Jody's frozen.
Yeah. You know,
Hey, Philip,
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
know. I'll be back. I'll be back in a second.
let me-
Sorry
Yeah,
about
no,
that.
no,
Can you hear me now?
I totally, as you were,
Yeah.
as you
Go ahead, Philip.
Harmony, as you were talking about the needing that outside perspective, I was thinking of an analogy, and it was, I'm a scuba diver and have been scuba diving, and when you're on the boat and you go with a buddy system, but you jump into the big ocean, you go down, you're swimming around, you're experiencing things, and then you come up, and the waves are just big and huge, and you're like, oh my god, I'm overwhelmed. But the thing that's really weird is when you finally, if you're looking at the boat and there's somebody on the boat, they're like your lifeline. They're in control of whether you get to shore or not, and they're totally calm, and they're able to sort of look at, like, I'm just going to help this person out of this massive seething ocean. And it just struck me because I can even recall doing exactly that, coming up from a nice dive. The water had changed. It was very high waves, and the surges were 6-foot swells. Well, if you've ever tried to get out of a ocean when 6-foot swells, man, you really need people on the boat to help you. And so that really, when you were describing that you need a person in your back pocket, that's really what struck me. And it's absolutely true, because we can't be in all places at all times, just not even close.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all need people to help us through challenging situations. And let's face it, when you're in business, you're setting yourself for many challenging situations. You may be responsible for many people, and we can't do it alone. We have to rely on an outside viewpoint, and that's where consultants, coaches come in. Tom, what would you have to add to this sentiment?
Yeah, I would add to it, like, there's different, almost like seasons of leadership, or maybe a different, better word would be like there's different areas or different times to act as a different leader. Sometimes you need to be at the front of the army per se, and you need to be really crushing, moving forward and progressing. And then sometimes you need to take a step back and you need to strategize, and you need to think, okay, what are the next moves for my business? How are we going to progress? That's going to be the most effective and efficient as a team. Sometimes you need to let other people step forward and prove their leadership abilities so that they're able to, lead that team. Sometimes you need to be the leader that is at the forefront. So just, again, being aware of yourself, being aware of the team, being aware of the long-term vision of where you're headed, and taking the steps forward to that in a reasonable, planned manner. Managing your emotions is huge. As a leader, we can all get very extreme or frustrated or angry or anxious. There's so many different things. And, one of the strongest attributes of a strong leader, in my opinion, is having emotional stability, where you can be the calm person that everybody can rely on and come to when they have questions, or, what are the next steps, amongst all of the chaos or the raging ocean that Philip just mentioned. Is who's that person or who are the people that are, calm amongst the storm, that can make those decisions that will help the company or the boat progress in the right direction and get back to land safely. So yeah, that's just what I would add. Welcome back, Larry. Thanks for leaving, bud.
Back. So, Larry, I was going to ask, and if we freeze, just hang in there for about, I think, 10 seconds and you'll come back.
Okay.
But, getting back to what Tom had said, being the best decision maker, not only for yourself, but for others, what would you recommend that somebody do?
I think they need to.
Are you talking to me or Larry?
Larry.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think
Tom.
they need to reach deep down and figure out, what is it that they want to achieve? What's the outcome, not only for themselves, but how do they include people to be able to achieve that outcome, right? And if that means, as I think, I'm not sure who was saying it, but if you want to be the raging fool because it's going to be more impactful than just being calm and collected, then that's what you need to use. However, you need to take into account that there are other people that you are trying to influence to be able to bring them along and have them contribute at the maximum that they can. So again, it goes back to you understanding you and how you are impacting others and how they are impacting you and how you can get as a leader the best out of them. So to define yourself as a leader doesn't necessarily mean you're always in front of the pack, but it may also mean that you're behind the pack, or you might be in the middle of the pack. But you need to be able to assess all of those situations. And the only way you can do that is if you are comfortable in your own skin.
Great. Yes, I totally believe that. Going back to Harmony, going back to Philip, you do need to know yourself, and you need to know the good points and the bad points. And I remember once, Larry, you had told me, once you understand yourself, and we're talking core values, beliefs, and many other things, your vision statement, both personally and for your business, that you have a choice. You have a choice whether you want to use that characteristic for the best outcome, or about that. How does that work in your own process?
Well, as I said before, do you need to be aggressive? Do you need to be passive? Do you need to be passive aggressive? Who do you need to turn into in order to accomplish what you set out to do with the cooperation of everybody else? Like some people in your organization may just need, a logical approach. Some of them may need an emotional approach. Some may need, the 2x4 over the head. I don't know, but there are ways of dealing with each person, and you as a supposed leader need to be able to understand how you can utilize your tools that you have at your disposal to be able to motivate and help direct those people who are around you with the impact of them having confidence in being able to trust you. So the first and foremost thing you need to have with most, if not everyone, is the trust capital you're going to be able to build over time with the group. So, and if you are not sure in yourself, your trust capital is going to go out the window very, very quickly.
Yeah, and people can pick that up. Have you ever noticed when you're working with a team how people sense that you're wavering and you're not totally confident in what you're saying? So at the very least, feel that confidence, relay that information confidently, and then that trust capital will be built. Philip, I'm curious, how do you build trust capital when you're working with teams or with a CEO as a consultant?
Everybody has their own different style. And one of those things about trust, though, that's very sacrosanct to me, and that is, I want to treat people as I would want to be treated, but I want to be fair. But I use this phrase, I will be equally unfair. So if I do something that is, a person perceives as, I wasn't looking out for their best interest, you gave me a bad review, right? A bad employee review, or you told me off, right? If I set the premise that I really am wanting to provide information in the most gracious of manner and be very helpful to you, I've got to set some ground rules so that when we get into these conflicting situations, people take it as I'm really trying to do the right thing. And that goes a long way to build trust. Even if I'm doing it and I did it badly, people know that I'm doing it badly, but I'm doing it from a place of caring, right? And you can be forgiven for doing it badly. But it's when you're the ogre, we've probably all worked for somebody in our lives that was that terrible boss, that was the egotist, that just, is it my way or the highway? And you could trust that they would be a bad person, but did you really trust them with your career, with your with advice, did you want to follow them? Were they a leader worthy of follow? No, right? So you have to have that relationship. But I'm very cognizant, and I agree with Larry, different people need different things. We're not communists. We can't treat everybody the same. And we treat each person unto their abilities and capacities. We don't treat people that are fresh in their job, like right out of college, the same way that we would treat somebody that has 60 years of work experience. We have to treat them differently. So that's, to me, building trust, building leadership is all about the other person, not and knowing yourself, but it's about how you treat that other person.
That's great. And I love the intention behind I am doing my best. I may not be doing it the best way that you see it, but my intention is to get this conflict resolved and treating everybody as their own person. Harmony, would you like to add to that?
Did you intuitively feel I had something
Yeah, we are in
picking
sync.
up what I'm throwing down?
There we go.
To what Philip was saying, you're so spot on, Jody. I'm on the other side hearing what people in the corporate world are experiencing that they would never say to their boss. And when you're not being heard by your boss, when you're constantly being knocked down, when your words and your thoughts and your ideas aren't being validated, when your ambitions and your dreams within the company aren't being validated, when you're being treated like a villain, when in all reality you love the company and want to help them, and yet they're treating you like you're gonna steal stuff and you're gonna take advantage of them. It completely tears down your employees and it destroys the relationship. And they're literally on the other side talking to me going, you know what? It's a matter of time. I've got a headhunter working for me. Like, I'm not going to stay here in a place where I'm not being trusted, where I'm being treated like I'm going to do something wrong, where I'm not being honored and I can't move forward, because we all, as human beings, want to feel we're creating something, we're moving forward, we're advancing, we're winning. And if you're not satisfying that with your employees and making them feel valued, your relationship with that employee and their tenure there is a ticking time bomb, straight up. So it's up to you to decide how high your attrition rate is. But if you're not honoring your peeps, I'm telling you, your attrition rate's going to be high, and the amount of money it's costing you, I don't know if you're doing the math, but it's going to suck. It's going to suck. So, and that's why we're here. And we're serving with passion, because we want to call these things out and ultimately save you money, which is, I think, what everybody wants, right?
Absolutely. And that is our goal of Alita Consultants, is to have you make your impact, save you money, and make you profitable again, or continue the profits flowing in. Now we have just a little more time left. Would anybody like to add one last comment on anything we've said today?
I'm good on my side, Jody. I think we've done a great job covering things. Yeah, I've been really enjoying the conversation.
So I would ask Larry a question, because
Yep.
so we've talked about both sides, right? The leadership side, and then the employees that have been brutalized by bad leaders. What does it take for a company to realize, hey, I've been doing it badly and I need to change? What causes them to want to do that?
Okay, so here is what they normally experience. They experience, as I think Harmony said, huge attrition rates. Okay, today I think it was the Wall Street Journal came out and said that 70% of employees don't want to be in the jobs that they're currently in. Okay, so the environments that these organizations are creating just are not conducive to retaining people. You have the high conflict environment. You have all of these symptoms, but that's not the problem. The problem is the 4 dimensions I spoke of earlier, which is individually, corporately or business-wise, the relationship between the person and the organization or the business, and finally, the relationship that exists amongst the people. So one-to-one. So those 4 dimensions are not being addressed by organizations today, and that's why they fall apart. Similarly, as individuals have their own foundational framework and they live to their own foundational integrity, organizations need to build that as well, as we are doing with Alita. Okay, now once that's built, now the alignment between Alita and its coaches and its consultants becomes fairly consistent. And then you can extend that to individuals, myself to yourself, Tom to Harmony, or Tom to Jody. And then, of course, there is always the how well am I aligned with the philosophy of Alita itself? So those 4 dimensions, if they do not exist within an organization, is the foundational root of their issues of whether it be conflict, work-life balance. All of those things come back to foundational integrity of the business and foundational integrity of the individual. That makes sense, Philip?
Absolutely. You're speaking my language as an armchair sociologist. You're talking about building a social system called a company where all the people in that system are valued. And
Exactly.
too often we have, some imbalance in it, an economic imbalance. I'm the only company that sells X. I'm the only company that has this job. I'm going to treat people badly. Yeah. So I totally get it. And I think it's a new discipline, right? It's how to get balance in the organizations that we have.
There is one big issue though, and that is people talk a lot about it, but don't know how to do it and make it happen. Yeah. So the what it is and why is important is all the rhetoric and all the language you hear out there. You don't get the how to do it. And they keep going over what it is and why it's important. When you ask them, how do you do this? They don't have the process. They don't have the methodology. They don't have. So if organizations really want to fix this,
exactly.
They need to work with you, Larry.
Yeah,
clearly.
exactly.
They need to work with all of us. Yeah,
absolutely.
But Philip, you were going to say?
No. It's just to say, I totally agree. It's one of those things that the shows up when you organization is built well, it shows up phenomenally in the stock and stock prices and values of the company and the retentions. It shows up really well, but for a lot, it's really difficult because it's not like I'm buying I don't buy this widget and I get this widget and that's it. You're buying a culture and you're buying a relationship, and that's as I like to say. Harmony's heard me say that's soft and squishy. I'm a technical guy, and I call this soft and squishy stuff all good, right? But it's the stuff that really it's the grease that really makes the organization work.
Yeah.
Well, here it is.
Look
at it this way, right? If you don't have a foundation to hold up the building, you're building the second and third floor without a foundation, so you know what's going to happen.
And it's so common that HR has, we're DEI and we've got a strong culture, and they have tons of information, but Larry and Philip, like you said, there's nothing going on in the company. They don't know how to execute building that foundation, building the culture, building the relationships, building the ability to have communications with you and the person above you. I mean, there is so much that is left out. And it's just like, we have this, but not really going on in the company. So as we come to an end of this live stream, I want to thank all of you for this chat, this stimulating conversation, and for helping our listeners get to know a little more about what Alita can do. We are the how consultants, putting your goals, intentions in your company, getting that going, and making your company more effective with real things. So thank you, everyone, for joining me today. We'll see you next month, mid-month, on our next Restream. Take care then.
Awesome. Thank you, Jody.
Thanks, Larry. Harmony.